Hello, Wonderhussy here. Back in Vegas. I had to take my car into town to get worked on because something is wrong with the suspension. And while I'm waiting for my mechanic to figure out what's going on, I figured I would take a walk around and see what's going on the Las Vegas Strip. There's all kinds of changes that have happened here since I moved 2.5 years ago. And especially right now with this Formula One race they're about to have. Okay, you know, Formula One racing, Grand Prix, the fancy European kind of racing, as opposed to all-American NASCAR. That's right, they're having a Formula One race on the Vegas Strip like a week from now. And apparently they have changed everything for this race. I mean, I'm talking millions of dollars of changes to the strip itself and the infrastructure all around the strip. And oh gosh, it's incredible to me that they're spending that much money on a freaking race when, need I remind you, there are people living in the storm drains right outside the strip. That's right, these storm channels that run all the way underneath the city of Las Vegas. They help channel the flash floodwaters when we get these crazy summer monsoons. Matter of fact, before they built this system of channels, I think back in the 90s, there was a terrible summer thunderstorm one year and the whole strip flooded. The Caesars Palace parking garage flooded. Cars were floating and bonking into each other. So to address that, the city built this huge network of tunnels that go for miles and miles under the whole city of Las Vegas, right under the strip. And unfortunately, because of the way housing prices are today, and well, who all knows what other number of societal ills contributed to this problem, but there's a bunch of people living in these tunnels. Can you imagine living in what's almost like a sewer tunnel? I mean, it's not technically a sewer tunnel because it's just for storm water, but you're still living in these tunnels under all these fancy hotels. And I don't see anybody out and about today. Normally, if I come over here, you see a bunch of people walking around, you know, pushing shopping carts with all their belongings in them. Because, I mean, there must be hundreds of people living. This network of storm tunnels goes under the whole city. I think there's probably hundreds of miles of tunnels and no telling how many hundreds of people living down there. And it can actually be really dangerous when it does rain and those floodwaters do come rushing through these channels and into those tunnels, which is exactly what they were designed for, to carry that floodwater down and out to Lake Mead. Well, unfortunately, when these storms come down, now that there's people living down there, occasionally people get swept away. And in fact, I think this past September when we had those big storms, at least a few people died drowning in their homes down there. I mean, you can see here by the weird amount of greenery. Look at this grass. There's even little palm trees, some kind of little desert shrubs growing. You can see there's been a lot of water flowing through here. In fact, it looks like there might even be some standing water over there, which I guess, since no one's around, I can go over and take a closer look at. Normally, I'm kind of hesitant to go down here because there's a bunch of unhoused folks hanging around here. And, you know, A, sometimes those folks can be a little sketchy and you never know. B, I also don't want to come off as nosy and exploitative. I understand that a lot of people are fascinated by what it's like living in these tunnels. And, you know, I've had lots of people email me, hey, Wonderhussy, you should go down there and make a video. Well, I don't want to take advantage of these people that are living there because they can't afford to live anywhere else. You know, it just seems, to me, it seems kind of exploitative and rude. But since no one's down here right now, I figure what's the harm? And it doesn't say no trespassing anywhere either, so I don't even think the police could get me. Anyway, I just wanted to see for myself if there was any standing water here, and oh my God, there is. Look at that. Lake Las Vegas right here in the storm channel behind the Bellagio. How about that? Anyway, since there is nobody around right now, I might as well go up and take a peek at the tunnels themselves. You're not scared, are you? I've actually already been in these particular tunnels myself one time. It was many years ago when I was working as a model. I did a photo shoot where I was body painted all crazy. That's right, this body painter painted my whole body with like crazy Mad Max kind of stripes and patterns and teeth. She actually painted teeth on my, you can figure that out. Anyway, we went down here with a photographer because the idea was, I was some kind of crazy sewer dwelling, Mad Max apocalyptic tooth woman, I don't know. So we went down in here, way back in one of these tunnels where there was some graffiti that this photographer liked, and that's where we did the photo shoot. Oh my gosh, look at this. Yikes. There's nobody here. I mean, it looks like somebody set up solar panels so they even have power down here. And I thought that might be somebody's little tent over there, but I don't think anybody's in here. You can see there's lots of trash bagged up. Cans, you know how homeless folks collect cans and cash those in for money? So it looks like somebody was here recently, but look at this. I think this explains why there's nobody down here. It says tunnel cleanout for Formula One. Remember I was just talking about the Formula One race that they're doing up there above decks? Remember, right above where we are right now at the entrance to this unspeakably terrifying and filthy tunnel are multi-billion-dollar resorts getting ready for this fancy European race. Well, apparently that fancy European race didn't want any homeless people underneath the racetrack, because look, it says these tunnels are scheduled for shutdown during the Formula One event. These tunnels will be shut down for the F-1 event on November 15th. A tactical unit will clear them of any human presence. After that, the tunnels will be shut down and no one will be allowed access until the event ends on November 20th, 2023. Oh my gosh, how about that? Even the homeless were evicted from their tunnels for this fancy race. I thought it was bad enough that they cut down all the trees on the strip and rerouted all the traffic. Can you imagine? You don't have anywhere to live. You find this tunnel to hunker down in, and then these racers come in and even kick you out of that. Looks like they did provide some information for some of the local homeless shelters in the area, so I guess that might be of some help. But you tell me, how is a homeless person with all of their worldly possessions in a shopping cart supposed to get from here, which, I don't know, if you don't know Vegas, we're probably like 5-10 miles from any of these shelters. It wouldn't exactly be easy. And I guess that explains why there's these bags of cans and there's a bag of clothes. There's a lot of personal belongings left behind here because, well, this tactical unit came down here and cleaned everybody out. That would have been interesting to see. I'll be honest, I didn't even know that happened at all. I just randomly decided to start my video about the F-1 down here because I had a feeling there would be something interesting going on. I thought for a minute that it would be interesting to actually go down in these tunnels during the Formula One race, to be, I could walk back about a mile and be directly underneath the racetrack. And I'll bet you anything, even down here underground, you'd feel the vibrations and you'd hear the roaring of the engines, and, well, you wouldn't have to pay a dime to be at the race. Meanwhile, above ground, woo-wee, those tickets are going for a lot of money. I went online out of curiosity to see how much does it cost to go to the Formula One? And to sit in the bleachers, that they built these bleachers, which I'm gonna go check out in a minute, at the side of the racetrack on the strip, I think it was like $2,000. For like a standing room ticket, I think it was around $800. But then for these hospitality suites, they built these magnificent hospitality suites with food catered by Wolfgang Puck and high-end liquor and all the beer you can drink. Well, for those suites, they didn't even have a number next to them. It just said, enter your information and our sales representative will call you. Basically, they're saying if you have to ask, you can't afford. Anyway, really fascinating, and I'm glad I stopped by at the tunnel entrance on my way to the strip itself. Like I said, I had a feeling there'd be some kind of interesting tie-in. I wonder why they had to clear those tunnels out. I mean, were they afraid that the homeless folks were gonna stand underneath the racetrack and like bang broomsticks up against the ceiling and somehow mess up the race? I don't know. I can't really think of why or how a bunch of folks living underground could possibly disrupt a Formula One race. In fact, I would think it would be the opposite. All the noise of the race would disrupt the people that were probably trying to sleep down there. But what do I know? I'm just a cog in this here machine. And speaking of the machine, let's head down to the strip and see what kind of changes they've made over there for this Formula One race. Boy, look at this. I've only been walking for about 5 minutes, and what a difference from where we were at the entrance to those tunnels, you know, where people were collecting aluminum cans just to make beer money. Well, over here, the fancy folks are charging their electric vehicles outside the Forum shops. Okay, you know, the world famous Caesar's Palace Forum shops. I think it's the highest dollar per square foot in terms of retail sales of any shopping mall in the entire country, maybe even the world. This place is so fancy, I feel like I can't even afford to breathe in here. Woo-wee. That sure was fancy, wasn't it? Okay, now we're back outside in the fresh, free air. Let's go see what they've done to the strip for this race. Okay, wow. The first thing I notice is all this track lighting up here. I guess that's for the race. I don't know if it's going to take place at night, I guess. So they're going to have all kinds of fancy floodlights on it. Wow, it's up everywhere. And that does look like it took a lot of time, manpower, and money to erect. But that's not actually the most interesting thing that I heard about that they did for this race. And by far the most expensive was they had to repave the entire surface of Las Vegas Boulevard. Okay, you know, Las Vegas Boulevard is the technical name for the Las Vegas Strip. Well, the roadway had to be completely repaved for this Formula One race. Because if you've ever watched Formula One or you've seen those really low to the ground race cars with the big wheels on the back and their pointy nose, well, they're so low to the ground that even those little reflectors, you know, the little bump reflectors that they put to demarcate the lines, the lanes in a road, well, even that little bump was too much for these Formula One cars to handle. And so they had to be completely removed from the strip, and the whole surface had to be repaved. Hopefully the police don't mind if I go look at it up close and personal out here. Oh wow, look at this truck. Naked Zoo Enterprises. I wonder what he's delivering. You think this trailer is full of naked animals? Boy, howdy, you never know what you're gonna see in Vegas. I mean, look how nice and smooth this surface is now. Nary a reflector bump in sight. But I mean, can you imagine how many millions of dollars it cost to repave? I want to say they did at least a mile, 2 miles, maybe 3 miles of the asphalt on the strip. Not just the cost of the asphalt and the laborers, but also the cost in fuel emissions and traffic. I mean, traffic was a nightmare down here. They started repaving this months ago, and I happened to come down here. I was shooting another video, I don't know, sometime earlier this year in the spring or summer. And that's when they were doing it. And it was a freaking nightmare. The whole strip was shut down and there was heavy construction equipment tearing up the old asphalt and putting in, laying down smooth, shiny new asphalt. All for this Formula One race, which apparently is going to bring so much money into the local economy that all of this is worth it. All of this. I mean, this track lighting goes on and on, probably for miles. And apparently there's even more stuff that we haven't even seen yet. Now, I guess this is the first year in a 10-year contract, okay? They signed a 10-year contract with Formula One. So it's not like they're doing all this work just for one race. It's supposedly going to go on for a decade. And I guess if people are willing to pay their ticket prices and, you know, email for more information, then the city will recoup all these expenses. And, well, apparently this coming weekend, which is when the race is historically one of the slowest weekends in the entire year for Vegas. It's the weekend right before Thanksgiving. No one's really traveling. Thanksgiving weekend is a big weekend in Vegas, but the weekend before, I guess, was one of the slowest in the entire year. So by hosting this race every year, it'll make up for that slow period, which, you know, is great news for all the service folks who work down here on the strip, all the bartenders and waiters. You know, I mean, I guess the idea is they'll be making more money in tips too, with all these fancy, rich European folk in town. Although I don't know, don't they say Europeans don't tip anyway? I mean, that's not a thing in Europe. I know when I worked on the Strip myself in the service industry, well, we kind of had a thing where it's like, oh man, there's a bunch of Europeans in town. Because in Europe, they actually pay their waiters a living wage, so you don't have to tip them. And so a lot of times they don't realize that that's the custom here. And so, well, in my day anyway, a lot of service people got shafted when there was a lot of Europeans in town. Anyway, here we are now in front of Caesar's Palace, the famous fountains in front of Caesar's Palace that Evel Knievel tried to jump back in the day. And on the other side of the fountains, well, there's a whole lot of Formula One lighting and scaffolding and a fence. I guess they had to put this safety fence up for the race because, you know, what if one of these cars is going 500 miles an hour and loses a wheel? So I guess that reinforced fence, and it is a strong fence, that'll keep people from getting hurt. Although, hold on a minute. Looks like they're missing a piece here. Hopefully they fix that before the day of the race. Oh, and look here. It says, don't pollute, drains to Lake Mead. That goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this video when we were down in those storm drain tunnels. All the wastewater in Las Vegas, all the storm water, all the puke and piss of the Strip, it all goes down into those tunnels. And I guess that's why they had to move all the homeless people. Holy cow, look at this. You can't even get to the sidewalk in front of the Bellagio, like if you wanted to watch that fountain show, because they put up these giant bleachers for this dang race. How about that? I think those are the bleachers that it costs $2,000 to sit in and watch this thing. Dang, look at that ass. Is that real? Gotta stay focused, on track. Anyway, I just crossed the street from the Bellagio over here to the other side so we can see these bleachers. Look at that. Oh, listen, somebody thinks he's in the Formula One already. Okay, tough guy. Anyway, wow, yeah, look, those bleachers take up, well, those are the bleachers. Those are the $2,000 seats. Those are those luxury skyboxes I was talking about where you had to inquire for a price. Man, I hate to even think what they're charging people for one of those things. But how about that? The whole sidewalk is completely blocked. I read online, or I saw online, they tore out a bunch of trees. There used to be a bunch of trees in front of the Bellagio there. In fact, I'll find some B-roll footage of what it used to look like and put that up while I'm talking. There used to be, well, there was a beautiful promenade in front of the Bellagio. You could walk and you could watch the fountains, and there were shade trees, and it was very, well, for Vegas, it was very classy. Well, apparently they tore all that out just for this race. Now, I don't know if they'll replant the trees for the 11 months or so in between races. Remember, this is going to go on for 10 years, but it'll be interesting to see. Sorry about the noise in the background. There's some guy busking over here, and I don't know how he's earning any money making this god-awful caterwauling. Again, it's just a mind-blowing disparity between rich and poor here on the fabulous Las Vegas Strip. Okay, well, unfortunately, I don't know that there's all that much more to see here at the site of the Formula One racetrack in Las Vegas today. Like I said, the race isn't until next weekend, but I couldn't exactly afford to come down here next weekend. A, because I can't afford a ticket, and B, if you don't have a ticket, I have a feeling they won't let you anywhere near the racetrack.
While you're breathing God's air right now, you're not burning in hell.
That's right, it's a free speech zone down here on the Strip, which is public property, so anyone's allowed to come down here and do whatever they want, which is why there's so many buskers down here. You know, like that guy that was singing. And that actually makes me wonder how this whole race is going to affect these buskers. I mean, they got the whole side of the street shut down on that side. Well, there used to be a ton of buskers, you know, showgirls and magicians standing on the sidewalk in front of the Bellagio earning a living. Well, now they can't go over there, so they're all jammed in over on this side. I'm sure that's probably hurting their bottom lines. And some of them look like they're living by pretty thin margins as it is. better stop in and say a prayer for all these doomed souls. Here at the Brahma Shrine, hidden within the grounds of Caesar's Palace, a rare oasis of spirituality in an otherwise completely bankrupt sea of sin. O divine Buddha, please cleanse me of this filth.
Looking at Christ, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Looking at Jesus. And you're chasing your tail like a dog.
You know, I'd be pretty bummed if I saved my money all year for my trip to Vegas this week, and then I couldn't even see the dang Bellagio Fountain show because of some Formula One race. You know what I mean? Like, this race is disrupting things for a lot of people, and I'm not even sure it's going to be worth it. I mean, I guess the theory is that they cut down the trees and close down the sidewalk and force all the homeless people out of the tunnels because there's going to be so much money coming into the economy. But I don't know. I was just talking to another guy that was shooting footage, and he said that they haven't even sold out the tickets. He said, in fact, that they haven't hardly made any money, and that the whole project is way, way, way in the red. So it'll be interesting to see if this random guy that I talked to on the street in front of the Bellagio knew what he was talking about, or if this race really does turn out to be a massive boondoggle. Well, one thing's for sure, it's definitely a boondoggle for these poor folks that were living in these storm drain tunnels where I started this video. You know, it still blows my mind that they evicted everyone physically from these premises. But I will say this. Remember how there was a big old sack of aluminum cans right there when we were here at the beginning of the video? Well, it's not here anymore. Apparently, there are still people here. And somebody came and took that sack. Oh, as a matter of fact, a lady just crawled out of that tent. Ooh, I'm gonna get out of here now. I feel very intrusive and very rude, and that was not my intent. All I wanted to do was kind of showcase the disparities between what they want you to see up on the strip and what's really going on. Enjoy the races, everyone!